Imagine, for a second, a world where the most powerful artificial intelligence on the planet isn't owned by a single corporation. It's not locked behind a closed door at Google, and it's not hoarded by OpenAI. Welcome to today's Explainer, where we are looking at the absolute bleeding edge of decentralized intelligence. Look, we have to dive right into this because right now we're in the middle of a massive AI arms race. But here's the absolutely critical context you need to keep in mind. The power in this space is getting increasingly concentrated in the hands of just a few tech giants. They control the data, they hoard the immense compute power, and they own the code. As a tech analyst looking at this landscape, it is incredibly clear that we are standing at a major crossroads for the future of technology.
So I want to throw a question out there. What if we could build a global brain? Seriously, I want you to really think about that for a moment. Instead of this somewhat dystopian reality of big tech monopolies running the show, what if that global brain belonged to everyone? Imagine a completely decentralized network where thousands of independent researchers and developers are out there actively competing to create the absolute best machine intelligence. And the kicker? They earn rewards for every single bit of value they actually contribute. Now, this isn't science fiction. This is exactly what Bittensor and its native token TAO are building right this very second. TAO is rapidly becoming the digital oil for a completely new era of intelligence.
Because right now, today, we're trapped in this paradigm of centralized AI. Only companies with billions of dollars and massive, sprawling server farms can train the most advanced models. And what does that do? It creates what we call data silos. These are completely closed systems where models basically can't learn from one another. It leads to a total lack of transparency, a huge potential for bias, and a winner-take-all landscape that literally shuts independent innovators completely out in the cold. But contrast that with the vision of decentralized AI. Bittensor's founders, Jacob Robert-Steves and Ala Shabana, fundamentally believe that AI has to remain an open public good. Think about it. If the internet had been founded by a single VC-backed company, it would probably be a closed, metered app today, right? Instead, they envision this bottom-up, fiercely competitive open market that coordinates the world's compute power.
Which brings us to Section 1, the Bitcoin of AI, a new paradigm.
To solve this massive centralization problem, Bittensor adopted a frankly brilliant architectural philosophy. They created a completely decentralized way to build artificial intelligence without big tech acting as the gatekeeper. And the tokenomic similarity to Bitcoin here is striking. The fixed supply is exactly 21 million TAO tokens. That's it. It follows a halving schedule that cuts emissions every few years, exactly like Bitcoin. And crucially, it had a completely fair launch. There were no VC pre-sales. There were no initial coin offerings. It was just pushed out into the world for the free market to adopt and secure fairly. That ensures the foundation of this global brain isn't artificially controlled by a few early insiders.
But here is where Bittensor takes that classic Bitcoin model and completely evolves it for the AI age. So Bitcoin relies on proof of work, right? Its miners spend massive amounts of energy solving completely arbitrary math puzzles just to secure a ledger. Bittensor, on the other hand, uses what it cleverly calls proof of intelligence. The miners on this network are performing highly valuable functional machine learning work. We're talking about generating complex text, creating stunning images, or even running massive heavy-duty calculations for protein folding predictions. The energy and the compute power aren't just wasted on random math puzzles, they are actively directed into solving real-world AI problems.
Let's look under the hood in Section 2, the architecture, specifically subnets and actors.
So, how does this whole thing actually function in practice? To understand that, we have to look at the underlying architecture. The Bittensor network isn't just one giant, chaotic pool of data. It's actually highly organized into these specialized ecosystems called subnets. You can kind of think of these subnets as fiercely competitive marketplaces or even specialized teams where each one is dedicated to a very specific AI task. Like you might have one for image generation, one for language translation, or another entirely for data scraping. And within these subnets, there are 4 key players driving this dynamic intelligence economy. First, we have the subnet owners. They create the market by defining the task and setting the rules of the game. Second, the miners. They provide the actual machine intelligence and the raw compute power, directly competing against each other to deliver the highest quality output so they can win those TAO rewards. Third are the validators. Think of them as the judges. They continually query the miners and rigorously score their responses. And finally, the stakers. These are everyday token holders who delegate their TAO to validators they trust, which secures the network and actually allows them to earn a share of the generated rewards.
Now, evaluating AI is tricky, right? The hardest challenge in decentralized AI is actually agreeing on what good intelligence even looks like.
Because unlike a simple math equation where 1 + 1 = 2, AI output is highly subjective. It operates on what we call probabilistic truth. To solve this, Bittensor utilizes something called the UMA consensus, or YC. This is a mathematical engine that aggregates the scores from all those validators we just talked about to find where the majority agrees. If a validator's scores consistently match the majority, their trust score goes up. If they try to cheat, collude, or just provide bad scores, their influence and their rewards instantly drop. This is a brilliant mechanism. It ensures the system remains completely meritocratic and highly resistant to bad actors, provided at least 51% of the network's stake remains honest. So the really crucial point is how this ecosystem scales up over time. And that brings us to the massive 2025 update known as Dynamic TAO, or DTAO. This update fundamentally changed the game. It essentially turned every single subnet into its own independent economy, complete with its own specific alpha token. So when you stake your TAO into a specific subnet now, you're essentially swapping it for that subnet's alpha token. This is absolutely revolutionary. It means the free market, and not a central authority or even the founders themselves, gets to decide which AI tasks are actually the most valuable. So if a subnet providing medical AI suddenly becomes highly demanded, its alpha token price naturally rises. This signals the overarching network to send more TAO emissions directly to that specific subnet. It's a completely self-regulating intelligence economy.
And we are seeing that economy thrive. Section 3, Real-World Traction and Use Cases.
It is super easy to get lost in the theory here, but let's talk about the reality on the ground. Bittensor is not just some theoretical white paper gathering digital dust. The real-world traction and the explosive growth of this ecosystem is frankly staggering. In just one single year, the network expanded from 32 subnets to over 120 specialized AI marketplaces. And the use cases, they are mind-blowing. First, take Chutes AI on subnet 64. They are currently handling over 100 billion tokens daily, providing serverless AI compute that is actively rivaling centralized cloud providers. Then there is IATA on subnet 9. They've developed this awesome train-at-home application that literally lets anyone contribute their everyday Mac or Linux compute power to a massive global training process. We even have subnets dedicated to agentic commerce right now, where AI agents are literally being trained to navigate complex shopping benchmarks and learn how to use digital tools completely on their own. This is the tangible, real-world power of decentralized intelligence at work.
All of this incredible activity points toward one ultimate visionary goal. Bittensor aims to become the TCP/IP for AI. Now, just like TCP/IP is the foundational internet protocol that routes your data globally without you ever even having to think about it, Bittensor wants to be the invisible underlying protocol that powers machine intelligence everywhere all across the globe.
But of course, we have to look at the whole picture. Section 4, Hurdles, Risks, and the Road Ahead.
As with any frontier technology, we have to look objectively at the challenges. The road to becoming the global brain is definitely not without its hurdles. And in this explainer, we must impartially break down the growing pains and technical risks facing this groundbreaking network as it attempts to scale. First up, there are governance and influence concerns. These were really highlighted by the April 2026 Covenant AI crisis, which brought up serious, valid questions from the community about just how much influence the founding teams still hold over the network. Second, there are technical vulnerabilities to iron out. A primary concern is something called weight copying. This is a scenario where validators might just lazily copy the scores of others rather than expending the energy to evaluate the miner's work themselves. And lastly, the competition is absolutely fierce. Bittensor isn't just fighting other decentralized projects like Fetch.ai and Render, it is going head-to-head against literally trillions of dollars in centralized capital from the deeply entrenched big tech giants.
But even despite those risks, the momentum backing TAO right now is undeniable. Institutional interest is absolutely surging. When you have giants like NVIDIA and major crypto funds like Polychain Capital showing deep, sustained interest, and the legitimate horizon of spot ETFs coming into play, it becomes crystal clear that massive capital is recognizing the sheer, disruptive value of a decentralized intelligence protocol.
Which brings us to our final, ultimate question for this explainer. Can decentralized AI actually beat the tech giants? Bittensor represents a fundamental shift in how we think about the future of technology itself. It is, at its very core, a massive bet on the power of the crowd versus the power of the few. If it succeeds, it ensures that machine intelligence, which is arguably the most valuable commodity of our entire century, is owned by everyone rather than just a handful of elites. So, what do you think? I highly encourage you to explore the network yourself on TAO stats and see these subnets operating in real time. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the future of tech.